Hi viewers, my name is Kimmy, and I am here today with the CEO and Chairman of Silva International, Ross Silver. The purpose of our interview today is to discuss various segments of the economy and get your take on them, Mr. Silver. Perhaps we should start with the GDP and work your way down to jobs, interest rates, inflation, business spending, energy, housing, retail sales, and the trade deficit.
Thanks, Kimmy. So in 2016, GDP was 1.6%, and many analysts forecast GDP to be 1.7% in 2017. For those of you that are unaware of what GDP or gross domestic product is, it's the broadest indicator of the economy measuring the value of final goods and services produced in the US in a given time period. It is perhaps the most widely or closely watched indicator as well, serving as a guidepost for the Federal Reserve interest rate policy and for budgeting both government and private industry. At Silva, we examine what trends are driving GDP up or down and forecast its future direction quarter by quarter.
Great. And how about employment?
So, if gross domestic product is the broadest indicator of the economy, employment is one of the most personally felt. These are people's jobs we're talking about. Two distinct metrics make up the employment forecast. The more important one is the payroll report, a summation by the Department of Labor of how many jobs the economy has created or lost each month. This data is broken out by sector, such as manufacturing, mining, and healthcare. Note that simply to keep up with the population growth, the economy needs to add more than 100,000 jobs every month, otherwise the unemployment rate will rise. That rate is the other closely watched figure. It's a simple division of the number of people who have looked for work in the prior 4 weeks but who do not have a job by how many people who are currently in the labor force. Hopefully that was clear. That simplicity belies some underlying concerns about the unemployment rate. One key one, potential workers who aren't actively looking for work aren't included in the calculation.
Okay, so next let's talk about interest rates.
Interest rates are of tremendous interest to borrowers for whom they are a cost, and lenders, a category that includes individuals trying to get some return on their bank savings. Almost everyone is in one or both categories. The level of short-term rates, such as those used by banks when loaning each other money overnight, is set by the Federal Reserve through its open market committee, usually at regularly scheduled meetings. Market interest rates, including those in money markets and offered on consumer products such as certificates of deposit, such like CODs, follow the Fed's lead but are also subject to other influences. For example, risk, transaction costs, and expectations of inflation. Generally, the longer the period of the loan, such as with a 10-year Treasury bond or mortgages, the more important market factors become when compared with the Federal Reserve's actions. We forecast both what we expect the Federal Reserve to do in the near term and to what extent that will affect the direction of long-term interest rates.
And where do you see the inflation rate headed?
So the inflation rate is a subject matter that has been talked about often, and I get questions about this all the time. So inflation is generally the rising price of goods and services, or why things cost more. So think about a Pepsi costing 75 cents a year ago and suddenly being $1, a year later, right? So inflation is measured by the Department of Labor using a sample dubbed a market basket of what people in urban areas in the US actually buy each month. Then each month, data collectors check on the prices of those items. From that research, we get the Consumer Price Index, or the CPI. A component of that index, the core inflation rate, which excludes the more volatile prices of food and energy, is also closely watched. At Silva, we forecast changes in both.
Okay, let's turn to business equipment spending.
So how much businesses are laying out investment is critical to other businesses in guiding their own spending. In making our forecast for the direction of business spending in the quarters and years ahead, we follow two indexes from the Census Bureau: durable goods shipments and orders and business inventories reports.
So how about a white hot area, that being energy?
So, like it or not, petroleum and natural gas remain incredibly important to the U.S. economy. Knowing where oil prices are headed is critical to businesses of all stripes, from airlines to plumbing companies. Consumers planning their family budgets and vacations care too. Not only do we monitor Department of Energy reports, but we also talk to commodities traders and petroleum engineers to forecast price trends, changes in production technologies, and consumer habits.
So housing seems to be in an area where many investors are interested. What are your thoughts on that?
In addition to being the roof over our heads, housing is an important sector in the economy. Three statistics form the core of our coverage: sales of existing sales of existing homes and the prices those sales fetch, sales of new homes, and housing starts, which reflect new construction that is counted in GDP. Because housing is a diversified and highly regional industry, our reporting and forecasting are informed by other research as well as conversations with industry experts as well.
And how about retail? Do you have any thoughts there?
So, consumers are the engine of our economy, and when their spending flags, or lags for that matter, businesses feel it. We examine trends that are influencing their habits, such as falling gas prices, to forecast what they'll be buying in the future and how much they'd be willing to shell out, both on everyday items and on big ticket purchases, such as cars and trucks. These are defined as consumer discretionary and consumer staple items.
What do you think happens with trade? It seems as though these protectionist policies may hurt the global economy.
So the protectionist policies are definitely something of concern, no question about that. But at the same time, I can understand why President Trump wants to protect our borders and essentially our trade. With that said, all nations of consequence trade with each other. Those that buy more from other countries than they sell in turn have a trade deficit, such as the United States. And that's been the story for the United States since the mid 1970s. How big that deficit will be and whether the changes will result from more or fewer imports or more or fewer exports, imports being what we bring in, exports being what we ship out, is the crux of our forecasting. We look at specific sectors such as agriculture, where the United States is doing well selling abroad, as well as what items such as smartphones we buy from overseas. We also discuss the strength of the dollar versus foreign currencies and how that affects trade trends. Thank you for tuning in to our segment here. And for additional content, please visit our website, www.silvacap.com. And each month I include in our newsletters various bits of macroeconomic data, which I hope you find helpful. Again, thank you. Our website, www.silvacap.com, and have a great day.